is my finished version of the part writing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to point out a couple spots that now that I've got the basic part writing in, I'm probably going to want to change. I'll try and explain why I want to change it, but also use this as a way to introduce you into some broader rules for better writing. In other words, the formulas are good, but depending on some situations, the melody doing something different, ranges, that kind of thing, we want to break from the melody because sometimes that can cause either awkward singing, poor ranges not giving us the sound we want, or even just, like part writing rules that are broken that you're going to be learning about in the coming days here. And the first spot is right here between measures 4 and 5. We couldn't use super common tone because super common tone would have been root to root, and then the common tones between C and A minor, the C should have held over, and the E should have held over, and then this G should have come up to the A, but it didn't because the melody wanted to go up here. Now there's a rationale for doing what we did here. I still have root, third, fifth, and just as an aside, you can break these formulas and at the ends of phrases. So this is like bum 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 breathe. Ya da 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 da. Right? It's like that's fine, right? And so we could just say, well, we're taking a breath here. We're going to start over. That's perfectly allowed. We also don't have to follow formulas if we can make sure that the writing makes good sense and doesn't break some of the classic voice leading rules, like parallel or consecutive octaves or those kind of things. So anyhow, what we have here works just fine. I don't actually think I've broken any rules, but I don't like jumping the tenors up here like this and then jumping them down and things. So here's principle number one that you can think about. I also don't like the altos going up there either right now. Principle number one is smooth lines tend to be better than following formulas, so long as we don't break certain kind of voice leading rules or make egregious writing. As long as our chords have a root and a third, that's probably enough as well. So we could err on the side of making this smoother and not having it be in these high ranges for these voices. I know it's quite bright and these guys are singing here, but I think we might save this for the last time this comes up here, the second time, so that we get more power the next time. So there's also an aesthetic choice here. So here's what I would do, I think. I would probably leave my tenors on C's like this. Right there and right. Just like that. I wouldn't change it. Now that means I have doubled third, but it's also do, or note number one in the key, and I think that's fine, and it gives us a nice strong tenor line. And I don't imagine this is for professional choir. It could be for high school, and the tenors are going to enjoy not singing up any higher than they're at. They do get to peak here anyways at the crest of the note, which is fine. The next thing is, do the altos need to be up here as well? Well, we've lost the E here already, so I think maybe we could take these guys down too. I think I'll just erase them all and go E, E, right? E, I think. And then we'll take a look at this, right? So that's nice and smooth. It kind of has the feeling of, these guys are rising up, right? And I'm just gonna listen to it. Yeah, seems fine, okay? I'm gonna do one more thing though. Now that I have this in place and it seems stable and fine, I'm going to have an opportunity to smooth out my line here even more. And I'm going to add some non-chord tones, which means I'm going to take this alto line now and I'm going to rise it up, right? So that instead of one moving away while the other one stays static, that's called oblique motion, where one doesn't move but the other one does. I'm going to have them rise up together in sixes because that's great harmony sound. And let's see if I can make this just play these guys right here. Shift. Yeah, I like that. I'll probably bring this down. So the altos and duets, get to duet with the sopranos a little bit. The whole thing. Do I like that? I don't know if I like that now that I listen to it. It's certainly a nice line to sing. Doesn't really complement this that well. I think maybe we'll just leave it. I guess this is the next rule of writing, is that you can check things out and see how you like them. And just because something works in theory doesn't mean that's what you're going to want. I like it coming down though. And all of these things are very, very singable. There is a problem with this here and this there being a fifth, A to E going to another fifth. So I think this is the place where we'll switch up. And you wouldn't be aware of this part yet because we haven't learned these rules, but one of the rules that we try and avoid is having, when we change chords, two notes that start in a fifth moving to another two notes in the same voices, in this case soprano and alto and bass, to another fifth as well. Okay, it causes it to have a jarring kind of sound. Yeah, it seems fine to me now. So again, smoother singing as we get into this fast part right here, and then allowed to jump around at the climax and then come back down over the line. That seems pretty good to me. Okay. Sort of a similar kind of issue here. We have this right here where it goes. Okay, and you see how we have a perfect fifth right here in the tenor and bass, and then we end up in a perfect fifth right there. Part writing rules say that's bad. No two voices that start in a perfect fifth and move to another chord and move, right, should end up in another perfect fifth. Same thing for octaves. We don't want this and we don't want this. They're both C's to end up in A's there. So we have two mistakes happening here. Now, you could say, nah, this is the end of a phrase. I'm taking a breath and I'm going on. And actually, that's perfectly fine, I think. Okay. However, I think along the lines of also making this smoother and easier to sing, the first thing I do is I would just put the altos on the C right here, where it's unison, right? It avoids the jumping down and jumping down, making a perfect octave. It also stabilizes and helps the sopranos pitch their note right there because the altos are singing it before and we'll be singing it again with them. So there's a lot of good things that it can do for us. Then we could jump down and jump back up, and that would be something interesting and good for the altos to do. So I like that a lot, actually. But again, all these things are here to either avoid some errors that we had or to make the lines better to sing. And better to sing means, easier to sing, I think, less strenuous. To keep it out of, like if everybody's jumping right there, then there's intonation problems and things. So it's a very subtle thing, but I think we'll do that. And as we do that now, okay, we have A, C, and E. We can get rid of this perfect fifth now by having the tenors go up to the A. And you might say, well, where's my fifth? Like I said at the beginning, one of the things we're going to learn is that a triad doesn't have to always have all the notes in it all the time. If it has a root and a third, then you know what the name of the triad or the root of the note is, the function of the chord, and then the third tells you whether it's major or minor, and that's enough. So momentarily here, briefly, to have root, root, third, third is completely fine, right? And then I think what we'll do is it's easier to sing. It's easier to sing. It avoids those pitfalls of parallel octaves and parallel fifths. in those voices, and then we can jump down and jump back up. It makes the lines very kinetic as this is going up and down, and I think that'll be really good. Easier to sing overall. I don't know if I even like this going down. Maybe we just leave it on the A, and for a moment we have A, and D. And this is our passing thing, because the E kind of clashes with the D a little bit, and we could maybe soften the line. Remember, this is also going at a very fast pace. If it were slower, the jump might be fine, but at a fast pace, yeah, I like that. I do like this dissonance right here, though, and I really think that we're going to keep it unless, we determine that people can't sing it. And then we could jump down maybe, but I like it. I think it's okay. We might now, after we've got those things taken care of, look at this opportunity to parallel down with the tenors like we did here with the altos. So this is F, E, D, and this is A. It's the same line, it's just down an octave. So maybe we'll do that as well. It will be fun for the tenors to take a chance helping out the melody instead of always being internal, right? Yeah. Yep, I like it a lot. Okay. Now, before we do the next two lines, I guess let's review the principles again. Smooth lines are better than having perfectly complete chords. Smooth lines tend to be, not always, but tend to be better than always following every formula all the time, especially if those formulas make the lines feel a little clunky or, into a funny range or something like that. And so, we have to take all these considerations in place here. This music's moving pretty fast. And so, having the voice go up and down is not as good as being smooth. And then we want to avoid places where we have parallel octaves, a pair of voices having the same note, moving across to another chord and changing to another note and still being in an octave. And the same thing for perfect fifths. All of these things have been accomplished, and then afterwards, we looked at this and said, well, we could make things a little smoother with the lines and stuff, and it's singable. It gives interest to the players, and I think it's good sonically as well. I want to point out here, right here, we have a G and a G at the end of this line, and then we start again with a C and a C right here. I do not consider this parallel octaves because this is truly the end of the first section, and this is the beginning of the consequent or second half of the period right there. Everybody's taking a breath. This is a do-over right here. It doesn't count as a connection, so we're just not even going to worry about the connective issues that we thought we might have just looking at it purely theoretically and saying, oh no, you've got these notes that are, in an octave here, the bass and the soprano, and then they're in an octave there. That doesn't count, okay? So then let's take a look here now. We're in the second half. So it's very similar to what we have here a little bit in terms of this soprano's coming and bumping in to the step beside it, and I think that's just fine. I'm just going to move this note over so that the spacing's a little better. I know the software can do this for me eventually. A little OCD right there, just so you can see that that's there. I see an opportunity to travel down here along with the soprano. So I'm going to do that with my tenor again, right? It never hurts to give your inside voices something to do. We'll talk about the basses later because they've just got crappy jump around and sing root duty right now, but we're not going to fix that right now. It's good for this kind of thing right here. We're okay. We'll do that in a minute. Well, if we get done this. So we have that thing where we jumped over again right here. And it's the same as the top right there that we had, right? And, we smoothed out our lines and jumped up ahead of time and things like that. And if you were really like sonically married to this, like, let's see, tenor line that goes bum 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 bum, like that, right? And then yeah bum 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 bum. That would be okay. I just think it's really hard to sing right now, and I thought maybe we'd do something different, but I think we're just gonna take the good work we did here and copy it over. Now, there are lots of good reasons for changing it up in the second half. It gives, certainly can give, um, what's the word I want? Interest and a variety to the lines. However, it hasn't been that long a piece, and singers have to learn their notes, and I think they'll be grateful for. I think the argument for the smoothness of the line, and then the familiarity of the singers with their notes. They don't have to learn it twice. It outweighs any benefit we could get from jumping up to the E right there. Awkward place for the tenors to jump into. We have another place where we have the G and the G right there. And then C and C right there. Makes for, these parallel octaves. But again, it feels like the beginning of a phrase where we're restating this for the last time. And I just don't think the connectivity between here and here is even audible. I don't think it exists. We're taking a breath there, so we're just not even going to worry about that. So here, seems like I actually misspelled my chord. Bad for me. Should be a B. There we go. Yes, E minor. Gives it a different flavor for this last time through, which is nice because it's setting up the E minor to go to the A minor, which is a fifth away, and it's a deceptive progression. Nice. Okay. Seems pretty good to me. I think the only thing that I'd consider doing differently here is looking ahead here and seeing if there's a need to rechange this so that we can fiddle with the registers and things here. For instance, if I think maybe we'd like to bring these guys up to the D and then down to the A right there. So we would like to have these guys be on the C right there. Okay. Altos, instead of being yeah, that works. It's parallel thirds. Don't think that's a problem, right? We're not going up to the A here because well, this is T to Do, by the way, right? We're doing the deceptive thing, because then it would give us parallel octaves. These two G's would end up on A's like that, right? So let's see. Yep, that's fine, right? And then I think it's probably okay at this point to take these guys up to here like this. We'll give ourselves that bump right there that happens, right, with the step away, just like we did in other places. But here we're going to jump our tenors up, I think. So we're going to take our tenors, let's just take them off the Ds and just jump them up to here, right? And I'm just going to leave them on the A. That means that the altos are going to double here. This is nice because when the altos jump down, they've been hearing the tenor sing this A. When they jump down to their A, the tenors are there to steady their pitch. It's easier to match a pitch than to jump into it, right? And then we have D, D. Oh, that's kind of an issue, maybe, though. We don't have a third of the chord. We really need a third of the chord, so I guess we're back down to third of the chord duty right here. It would be nice to keep them there. If the altos in rehearsal are having problems doing that, we could split the tenors, but we don't want to do that for an exercise. That would be a rehearsal accommodation. So we'll bring them down like that, and then they can go back up. So that seems really good. So again, here it might be nice to bring them back down to the altos again. We're talking about the inside line here. To bring our altos down to the B like that, because they were singing it before. It's sort of this mirror of what happened up here, and that would mean we probably want these guys and the basses to get out of the way, or the tenors, and get out of the way to right there, right? Yeah, it seems okay. I want to mention here that in traditional music, the idea of having a root and a third minimally goes away a lot of times in music. You'll just see that they have like roots, lots of roots, and so it would be fine, for instance, for the altos to go up to the root, but this has to stay right here. Otherwise, you don't have roots and fifths, roots and thirds at the end, or just a bunch of roots because everybody understands it's the end and we're home, right? But we wouldn't bring this guy up there and this guy up to the G and then leave, like with a root and a fifth. It'll sound really strange. In fact, I'll show you what that sounds like. It sounds like this. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's an effect, right? We'll just put that back down there. I think the real question is, do we like the way the altos go down, right? So they're like T, so I think it's fine, right? Yeah, it's pretty good. If we have particularly weak sopranos in the lower end here, we could always double up with an alto going up like that. All right, so that's what we do next. Now, unfortunately, you probably all have, not unfortunately, but realistically, you all have variants on how you wrote this, and that's good. But for us to continue writing as a class, we need to standardize. So, I'll give you comments back on your individual writing, but the next step will come from what we've done here, I think. And there's still chances we'll find other mistakes and things that I didn't catch on the revision, and we'll change and tweak on the way. But from a composition point of view, remember first, once we had a melody and chords, right, which I provided to get us jump started, filling in the other parts was just filling it in. Don't worry about it too much. Recognize there's some places that are going to need some revision and come back to it later. If you do this way, then you get through a lot of writing quickly using your technique, and then you can go back and evaluate with your ears and with singing. Ideally, we would sing through all these parts. In fact, I already have, right? So, I'm comfortable with them being singable. Usually if you're using formulas, they are singable, and then the changes that we make as well are things we should listen to and sing. And it's never a bad idea to put it in front of the actual singers and get a listen so you can sit back and listen, because computers they're all right, but it's not quite the same, right? Okay, now I just want to talk about basses, this last little bit here. One of the things that we'll learn how to do is in the coming days and weeks here, don't have that many weeks left, but is to say, well, do the basses always have to? Do they always have to, sing the root of the chord? And the answer is no. We can give them more interesting lines by jumping to thirds or, scaling down through fifths and things like that. And there are certain musical effects that can happen also by having the chord in second inversion with the fifth and the bass. There are some places here where if the lines were different, we could consider changing. Like, for instance, we could go here, do, mi, fa, or do, do, and we could go up to like mi, fa, and that would be would be a much more interesting line for the basses. But if we did that, then we're on an E here, The altos are on an E and we're both going to Fs. And so there's some rewrites that have to happen, right? You can't have that parallel octave between those two lines. So uh, any sort of changes that we're going to make here have to be in the bass line, have to be thought about, that they may cause other rewrites. So in general, it probably won't do very much here. I like the blocky kind of sound that's going on here. Maybe in the middle part, we can look at inverting the chords. So, like yeah. If we put in an inverted part of the bass, like a third or something like that, to give us a more interesting bass line or a smoother, more singable line, we always have to check for other part rating errors, those parallel octaves and parallel fifths and things like that. But it also changes the style quite a bit, and so we might save that for later. What's next for you? Well, we're going to start writing lyrics, and that will be fun. I'll give you a prompt for that in another video or live. And we're going to write the next section that comes with. So I will prepare another set of melodies and chords and things, except it will be slightly different style, and we'll start to employ different textures, maybe 2 parts, maybe 3 parts, maybe 2 parts and then 2 parts. We'll also look at not having to always be in root position. Obviously, that means we have to learn what errors or problems could occur and how to spot them and then avoid or fix them. So that's coming next.